Bernard, can you hear?
Yes, I can. I can hear, but I don't see anybody.
Is your video on?
Yes, it is. I turned it on.
Well, you look great. I'm sorry you can't see us.
All right. Bernard, let us know if you need any help. Otherwise, I think we'll get started. So thank you everybody for joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start the session. So a quick note on language. You'll be amazed at the variety of language used across such similar sectors all around the world. And so I just want to acknowledge that as a global organisation, we all use the language that's considered best practice in each of our countries, and just acknowledge that each of us is working from that place of respect and valuing others. So if you hear different language, just kind of coming to the session with that understanding. And I also want to acknowledge that the session today is being held in English, but bonjour et bienvenue à our francophones aussi. Our chat function, you'll notice, is disabled, so it's a little bit different from some other Zoom meetings that you might have been in. And that's an accessibility feature. So if we have people joining us who use a screen reader, it becomes quite distracting to have chat as well as listening to the presentation. So that's the reason for that. But if you do need anything, you can message the host directly through the chat function. Live captioning is being provided. And thank you, Jason, for providing that, that captioning. You can enable this by selecting the CC button just down on the tray here. And as a result, if you're speaking today, please just try and speak at a moderate pace just to help Jason as he's converting those captions. The session today is being recorded, and that's just to allow us to capture all of this great stuff and share it for those who can't join us today. But it's totally okay for you to have your video off. We want you to be comfortable, and whatever way it suits you to participate is the right way. So lots more thank yous to do later on in the session. But right now I'd like to hand over to Kathy Langlois, our IIMHL IIDL North American lead, to introduce Elder Commander, who'll be starting and opening our meeting today.
Thank you, Aisling. And I just want to say what a real honor and pleasure it is to introduce you, Elder Commander. We may have run across each other in previous lives, and it's just a pleasure to be able to do this today. So I want to introduce Professor Claudette Commanda, who is Algonquin Anishinaabe from Kitigan-Zibi Anishinaabe First Nation located in the province of Quebec. An alumni of the University of Ottawa Faculty of Common Law and Faculty of Arts, Claudette has dedicated the last 35 years to promoting First Nations people, history, culture, and rights in various capacities as a University of Ottawa student, professor, member and chair of the Aboriginal Education Council, and via public speaking events. She is a professor for the University of Ottawa's Institute of Women's Studies, Faculty of Education, Faculty of Law, and the Aboriginal Studies program, teaching courses on First Nations women, Native education, First Nations people and history, Indigenous traditions, and decolonization. In addition, in her spare time, she is the executive director of the First Nations Confederacy of Cultural Education Centers, a national organization which protects and promotes First Nations culture, languages, and traditional knowledge. Claudette is inducted into the Common Law Honor Society. She's served 2 terms on the Board of Governors for the First Nations University of Canada and 3 terms on the Kitigan-Zibi Band Council. In 2017, Claudette is the first First Nation appointed elder in residence for the Faculty of Law, University of Ottawa, and the first person of a First Nation heritage to be appointed to the Board of Governors for the University of Ottawa. She is the special advisor on reconciliation for the Dean of the Faculty of Law, and she is one of the plaintiff representatives in a successful class action, Federal Indian Day School settlement. As a result, she is a survivor. Claudette is a proud mother of 4 and a grandmother to 10 beautiful grandchildren. And in March 2020, Claudette received the 2020 Inspire Award for Culture, Heritage, and Spirituality. Thank you for joining us today, Elder Commanda.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for that warm introduction. Thank you, Aisling, for inviting me to be part of your meeting today, as well as to Krista, who made the actual introductions between your team and me. So I truly appreciate that. I warmly greet each and every one of you beautiful people. I warmly greet you to this homeland. I welcome you into the ancestral homeland of the Algonquin people. So Chimi Wedgniwichkiwe Duk Pijajiko Ma Anishnabe Ki O Mama Weneniwag Kani Michkijigun Kinuni Dishnikas Kitagan Zibi Donjaban. Welcome. I welcome you, brothers and sisters, into the homeland of my ancestors, the Algonquin people. English were called Algonquin, but in our Anishinaabe language, we are referred to as the Omamawenenewag, Anishinaabe, the people, the original people, the hunters and the gatherers, the paddlers. I'm very honored to be here with you. My English name is Claudette Commanda. My government name is 0730079202. But who I am in my language, in my culture, in my identity, my name is Kanimich Kijigun Kinu. That is who I am. And my ancestors know me by that name. And so when I am in prayer, when I am in ceremony, or when I am in communication with the Creator, in communication with my ancestors, in communication with the spirit helpers, I use my spirit name, Kanimich Kijigun Kinu. And by using my name, then it calls in those spirit helpers, my ancestors here, and they rejoice knowing that their descendants continue to be here on the land, and that we in turn have to ensure that our children and those 7 generations who are not here yet, they will be called forward to live upon Mother Earth in that human form, to celebrate life, and to rejoice in all the beauties and the blessings that the Creator gives us each and every day, and to also learn about our teachings, our creation stories, our laws, our ways of life, our ways of knowing, our ways of being. And they in turn will call themselves by their original name. So all the ancestors will continue to hear our voices, and all our relatives in the spirit world will continue to hear us, and all those spirit helpers will rejoice knowing that the original peoples that the Creator placed upon this land will continue to be here forevermore. And when we welcome visitors into our homeland, and when we say Mi Gwech Kibijayek, Pijajik, welcome. Pijajik Oma Anishinaabe Aki Omama Weneniwa. The land hears us. Mother Earth rejoices as well, as so do all of creation. And by welcoming you into the homeland, I have lived my responsibility that was entrusted onto me. The responsibility that was entrusted on to our people since time immemorial. And we must ensure that these cultural protocols will remain here forevermore, for everlasting. Not only for us, but for the children that are here today, the children that are here tomorrow, and a generation that will come in 7 generations to 7 generations to 7 generations. Because in our belief, in our teachings, in our laws, in our creation story, in our spirituality, when we say Mino Pimadzuin, Pimadzuin, that is life, and life is forever. Life is forever, it is a gift. And not only are we as first peoples of this land called Turtle Island or North America, Not only do we have that gift of life, but all peoples, regardless of color, regardless of where you come from, all have that blessed gift called life. And let us celebrate that life. It is said when we come together, we put our minds, our hearts, our spirit, our voice together as one, as we lift up that voice to Creator and we say, Chimi, Gwech, Kishiminadomi, Gwech, Kinakego. We say thank you to the Creator for everything that He has blessed us with. We put our minds, our hearts, our spirit, and our voice together as one, as we say Chimi, Gwech, to that first grandmother, that one grandmother who shines her light each and every night so we may see our sisters, the stars. And we say, Chimi, Gwech, Kokamista Begizis. We say thank you to our grandmother, the moon. We put our minds, we put our hearts, our spirit, and our voice together as one, as we say thank you to that first grandfather, that grandfather who warms us each and every day as we rise. And we say, Chimi, Gwech, Misho, Miskizis. We thank you, our grandfather, the sun. We put our minds, our hearts, our spirit, and our voice together as one. And we say, Chimi, Gwech, to that mother, that one mother for all, who provides that water life, the animal life, the medicine life, the plant life. She provides everything for us, our sustenance, so we may survive as human beings, so the animals will survive and the plant life will survive. And we say, Chimi, Gwech, Jojoiki, Mi, Gwech. We thank our Mother, the Earth. We put our hearts together and our spirit together as we raise our voice and we lift our hands to all our ancestors and we say, Chimi, Gwech, ni Jenwen, Naganag, mi Gwech, Onji, Widoko, Wado, Duwin. We thank our ancestors for the help that they will bring forth today in this meeting. And we say thank you to the grandmothers and the grandfathers, those spirit grandmothers and spirit grandfathers. Das Pinigen Kokamisug, Das Pinigen Mishom Saganabigis, we dokushnang onji kakina. We ask the grandmothers and the grandfathers of the four directions to come into this circle, to bless this circle, to protect this circle. And that as we share knowledge with one another, we do so with kindness and with love. That we will listen compassionately, as we allow people to speak passionately. And Creator, we come together as brothers and sisters in this meeting, brothers and sisters from the four corners that are found on the medicine wheel, the creation. And Creator, we ask that for world peace and safety for all. And we know we are all in very difficult times, but peace must come. And we know, Creator, that you've blessed us with prayer, and we must, as people, live up that responsibility to speak our prayers through our voice as we say, Chimi, Gwech, Kishiminado, Onje, Kinuwine, Miawin. We thank you, Creator, for hearing our prayer today, as we offer our prayer for all those who need love, all those who need kindness, all those who need a blessing. Chimi, Gwech, Kishiminado, Chimi, Gwech, Mi, Gwech, Onje, Zagi, Duin. We thank you, Creator, for the love that you have blessed us with. We thank you, Creator. Chimi, Gwech. So to you, my brothers and sisters, I thank you for giving me this time to share teachings through what is called a blessing or a prayer. The word in the Algonquin language for prayer is Emiawin, and that means to chant, because we always sang our prayers to Creator and to our ancestors and to those spirit helpers and to all our relatives from that water life, the plant life, the medicine life, the trees, the animals. We're all related. Emiawin. And when you think of that word, Emiawin, a chant, a song. For indeed, anytime we communicate with the Creator, with our ancestors, with the Spirit, it is a song from our heart. It is. And as we say our prayer, we acknowledge another beautiful gift that the Creator has blessed us with, the seven grandfathers. And the seven grandfathers, that how we understand as Anishinaabe people, how we understand those seven grandfathers, and that we must exercise those 7 grandfathers every day, and how we must live with those 7 grandfathers every day in the most respectful way. And every human being that is born has that opportunity to learn of the 7 grandfathers, to carry the 7 grandfathers, and to respect those 7 grandfathers. And when we exercise the 7 grandfathers, it makes us good people. And we call those 7 grandfathers each by their own name: love, wisdom, respect, courage, humility, honesty, and truth. Fundamental values that have been taught to us by our parents, by our grandparents, our great-grandparents. Fundamental values that have been gifted to us since the beginning of time, since time immemorial, and that we must ensure that we continue to pass it on everlasting for our children today and tomorrow. We call those values our grandfathers. We call them our grandfathers, for indeed they uphold us. Cultural protocols and knowledge is so important because it comes from the land. It comes from the land. And when we live accordingly to the great gifts that the Creator has given us, we uphold our responsibility. And as first peoples of the land, lived experiences are so important. Knowledge, it contains our knowledges. And our cultural protocols are so deeply connected to our creation, to our spirituality, to our governance, to our social, to our culture, to everything that who we are as first peoples. And we must ensure that those protocols, because they're more, we use the word protocol, but they're more than protocols. It's our law. O Gichita the Wejge Win, the law that comes directly from the Creator. So important because it's a connection to land, it's a connection of land, the ancestors, and the human spirit. And it never ends. And it's beautiful and it's powerful. And when we show that love to one another, it just brings such warm, powerful energy. And in our prayer, we also acknowledge our loved ones who are in the spirit world, for they continue to always be here. Never forget our loved ones. And in our prayer, we always acknowledge even those that we do not know. Because out there in this world, there is someone, and perhaps it may even be the person beside you that needs to have a prayer. But the Creator knows. The Creator knows everyone by name, because the heart and the spirit is the true name. And so when we lift our hearts and we lift our spirit and our voice and we say a prayer for all those out in this world that will need a prayer of healing, a prayer of comfort, a prayer of peace, the Creator and His Spirit helpers take our prayers and comfort everyone with that. And when we think of what's going on today in the world with the people in Ukraine, let us pray for safety for all people. Because the Creator gave human beings the great gift of life and to be kind to one another. And I know there's good people, and it's only through goodness that love will conquer all. The month of February is a time now that a Be Kind month, right? We've seen the past few days wearing pink, stop bullying. So our slogan is Min Wa Ya Win, Min Ya Wa Ya Win. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind to others, but also be kind to yourselves too, because you have a spirit and you are valuable, and the work that you do, the knowledge you share is so valuable, and it helps absolutely. So Chimigwech, my friends, for giving me this time to share. And I wish you well with this meeting that you are doing. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. Keep sharing. And it is through good works that good things come forward, because I always think about what my grandfather said. No matter what we do, always do it in a good way. Open your mind to wisdom and allow yourself to learn and share your wisdom. But remember, what you do, always do it for the children. Always. Never forget those little ones. So chimigwej niwichkiwedog, migwej, migwej, migwej. So thank you, my friends, my brothers and sisters. Thank you. Migwej.
Thank you so much, Elder Commander. We're so honoured to have you with us and to share your wisdom as part of that opening blessing. And the power of your words and your heart really shone through. I think everywhere we are across the world, we're really feeling that. So, and I just thank you as well for those values to begin our time together. And I can't think of better values to be grounding ourselves in as we start our time together today. So thank you so much. The next part of our opening is to acknowledge that many of us today are working from our own lived experience of mental health concerns, disability, or providing support and care to a loved one. And I want to also extend respect and thanks to all those today who are working from and sharing their lived experience, and acknowledge that we stand on the shoulders of those advocates and pioneers in the lived experience movement who've come before us. And our ongoing work is to make it easier for those who will come after us. So with that, I'll move to some very quick thank yous. So I want to acknowledge on the call Kathy Langula and Eddie Bartnick, who are both from IIMHL and IIDL as well. They've been great supporters of this work. Need to give a very specific and huge thank you to Krista Bene and the Canadian Mental Health Commission, who've been extremely supportive of this work and connected us up with so many wonderful people, including Elder Claudette, Commander, and also the USA IIDL reference group, who've brought so many great people together today as well. So thank you to all of the supporters who made this happen. So with that, I'd like us to very quickly zip around and get a sense of who's on the call. It's a bit of a tradition within the IIDL and IIMHL events to have a little bit of time for an introduction. So I mentioned this in the opening email, that we would just ask you to say your name, what country you're coming from, and to share your pronouns as well. So I will start us off and then I'll pass the mic on to somebody else. And this always works in different ways, but if you could say your little bit and then nominate who you would like to go next. So my name's Aisling Blackmore. I'm joining from the lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people in Australia, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'd like to pass the mic to Krista Benes, I think.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Krista Benish. I work with the Mental Health Commission of Canada. I am located in Canada, in Ottawa, and really pleased to be here. Great to have that opening, Elder Commander. Thank you so much for the warm welcome to the meeting. I am going to pass it over to Ruby Moore.
Thanks, Krista. I'm Ruby Moore, coming to you from St. Simons Island, Georgia, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm going to pass it on to Miss Tia Nellis.
Hi, I'm Tia Nellis, and I'm coming from the US, and my pronouns are she, hers, hers. And I will pass it on to Bernard.
Bernard, you're on mute.
Hi, my name is you from the US. And my pronouns she and his.
I think Bernard's monitor was freezing, and he's coming from the US. he, him, his.
Thank you. Melody, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm Melanie Cooper from the US and my heritage is
Do you want to pick someone, Mel?
Caitlin, Kristen Bennett. Her name is Kristen Bennett.
I think Krista went.
Oh yeah. I didn't see nobody else. Louie, you pick them for me.
Okay. How about Robin?
Hey everyone, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm Robin. I'm coming to you from Canada, specifically Ottawa. I work with the Government of Canada and the Office for Disability Issues, and my pronouns are she and her. And I will pass it off to Mary Ann, you're beside me, so.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Mariana Terriani, she, her pronouns, and I am here in Ottawa, Canada, and also acknowledge that Ottawa is traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. And I will pass it off to, I see a familiar face. So Victoria, I'm going to pass it off to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Marianne. Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Carmichael. I'm joining from Montreal, Canada, and my pronouns are she, her. And I will pass it along to Miriam.
Wonderful, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Miriam. I'm also based in Canada. I work at the Center of Excellence for PTSD, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'll also pass it over to a familiar face, Kath.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kath. I do prefer Catherine. I realize now that my name on the screen is Catherine. I'm here from Toronto, Ontario, Canada as well. And I'm also from the Center of Excellence on Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. And my pronouns are she, her. I think I saw Ashley in this audience. So Ashley, if you are here, I'm going to tag you to introduce yourself. If Ashley has tuned out, I am going to tag Tori.
Sure, I don't think I see Ashley, but feel free to interrupt me if you are here, Ashley. My name is Tori Macbeth. I am coming to you from Hamilton in Ontario, Canada, which is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and the Haudenosaunee nations. My pronouns are she and her, and I will pass it along to Abigail Kidd.
Hi, I'm Abigail. My pronouns are she and her. I work for the Office of Disability Issues. So I'm coming to you from Canada as well, specifically Victoria, British Columbia. And I will pass it off to Lisa.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Cowley, and my pronouns are she, her. And I am here today from Ottawa in Canada. And I work for the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And I'm going to pass it off to Michael Kendrick.
I'm Michael Kendrick, and I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada. And I guess my pronouns are he and him. And I need to pick someone here. Maybe Cheryl?
I assume you're me. So hi, my name is Cheryl Bellamy. I'm Zooming now from New Haven, Connecticut. But I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey, by way of South Carolina, from the Gullah Geechee folks from Lower Country, South Carolina. And I'm just happy to be here. I have to leave at 4, but happy to be here.
Eddie, will you go next, please?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Eddie Bartnick. I'm from Perth, Western Australia. I'd like to acknowledge it's the land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. I'd like to pay my respects. And my pronouns are he and him. And I'm just wondering, Marianne, were you early on or have you? Yep, you have. So I'm battling now to find anybody else.
Cherie Mitchell.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, my name is Cherie Mitchell. I live in Lithonia, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. My pronouns are she and her, and I am part Cherokee. So thank you.
Thanks, Cherie. Elaine, have you had a chance to introduce yourself?
No, I have not. My name is Elena Outstadt. I am located in the southeastern US and pronouns are she, hers.
Thank you. Kathy, I don't think you've had a chance.
Thanks, Aisling. My name is Kathy Langlois. I'm based here in Gatineau, Quebec, on the land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe. My pronouns are she and her.
Wonderful. Now, is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves? Okay, thank you, everyone. It's always so gratifying to hear just the diversity of places and people that we have joining us. So thank you all so much. So we're going to move now into our panel section, and in keeping with the international nature of the International Initiative for Mental Health Leadership and the International Initiative for Disability Leadership, our first speaker is joining us via a pre-recorded video from New Zealand. Her name is Monique Leith. She's the director and principal planner at her own business, Leith Consulting, and she's the co-chair of the Kapiti Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to share the video now. So turn your speakers up and get ready to hear from Monique.
Kia ora koutou everyone again. Obviously my name is speaking. I think if I just wind back a little bit into who I am and a little bit about my I'm hard of hearing. If I cut my hearing aids off, I can't hear anything. I liquid, and so for the purpose of this meeting, I'm 100% reliant on my captions, which are working extremely well. So thank you very much to whoever's doing that. My hearing loss is hereditary. My mum is deaf. But the gene has kind of jumped all around the generation. But she has hearing impairment. And by trade, I am a resource and environmental planner. So I work a lot with government agencies and local government as well as private developers and job blog people on the stage. I guess the beginning of my leadership journey was when I decided to leave my job as an employee and go out on my own as an independent professional planner. That really did feel like a bold, brave thing to do for me because there's just so many additional challenges that we have to face in terms of what if someone wants me out, wants to talk to me on the phone, or but some places that people probably don't think twice about were probably stopping me from doing that for quite a few years. So it was a big step for me, and I couldn't have done it without my family support, particularly that of my husband. So that kind of made me step up to what my limitations were and starting to have those little awkward conversations with people about what I can and can't do, and just wanting up to being deaf, I think, because up until that point I've been able to hide it pretty well or pretend we're normal, if you will. So the other thing for me was that within about a year of doing that, I actually found myself on Washington DC at IIDL exchange, Disability Leadership Exchange. that was in 2019, and I met some of you there. And that was an absolute game changer for me. It completely changed my life. And the reason for that is because America is so much more accessible than New Zealand. And for the first time in my life, I could see deaf people excelling, thriving. I saw deaf people who were lecturers, doctors, academics, childcare teachers, who were just out there living their best lives. And I thought it really made me think about what was enabling them to do that, and what in New Zealand is not enabling deaf people to, and generally people with disabilities, to live their best lives independently, just like a neurodiverse person would. And so I did really come back to New Zealand with a real fire in my belly to help New Zealanders with disabilities be more enabled. And I knew that probably the biggest thing that I could do was make myself more visible to New Zealanders. As someone with a disability who, in my view, is out there living her best life. And there's no reason why other deaf people and people with disabilities can't do the same. But when I was younger, you know, as I said before, it wasn't until 2019 that I really saw it for myself. And so seeing really is believing. You know, if you're not seeing teachers, high school teachers, politicians, if you're not seeing them, those sort of role models that look like you or sound like you or face the same challenges as you, then you're never going to think that future is for you. We really need to have that representation at those levels across every industry in New Zealand. And I know I have a role to play with that. So coming back, I really did just, instead of hiding my disability, I've really embraced it and accepted it as part of my identity and talked about it more. And instead of not joining groups or organisations, voluntary organisations, for example, the local Chamber of Commerce, have wanted me to sit on their board for a while. And so I did. And instead of just sitting in the meeting and not hearing anything and getting frustrated, I spoke up and I communicated what I needed.
So fantastic way to open with those reflections from Monique in New Zealand. I'm going to move now to one of our first speakers, Tori Macbeth. Just adding pins as I'm doing that. So Tori is a young leader with jack.org in Canada. And so Tori, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about you, and also as you reflect on your journey so far, if you could tell us about a time when you got a real sense of yourself as being a leader.
Sure, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here with everyone and to hear everyone's opinions and thoughts. So thank you for having me. Like you said, my name is Tori, and a lot of the volunteer work that I do and the advocacy work that I do is kind of channeled through jack.org, which is this really wonderful organization we have in Canada that is like specifically geared towards educating and advocating for youth mental health in the country. And so I've been working with them for, oh gosh, 5 or 6 years now. And I've had the opportunity to really kind of like explore my own mental health journey through the things that I've learned in jack.org, but also learn about other people's experiences and their lived experiences like we were talking about. And so I would say a moment where I felt a real sense of leadership. These have always been like moments where people that I have believed in have done fantastic work, and people that I've been able to support have been like doing cool work themselves. So last year I invited one of the people on our executive team for jack.org at my university to guide our chapter, which is like our group, I guess, through a art lesson that engaged with mental health in some way. They're an artist themselves and they were really engaged with our group. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of allow them to develop their leadership skills through this art lesson. And so what she decided to bring to our meeting after talking it through and brainstorming with me was this really wonderful activity where we all sat down as a team and drew these kind of like freestyle abstract pieces. And this person guided our artistic output in just like such a generous and engaging way. And it felt so special to be able to see our group communicate and bond in these ways that you kind of can't in day-to-day meetings. And so seeing this person lead our chapter in this really engaging way made me feel proud of them for doing this work, but also like proud of myself for being able to engage people in this way and kind of like help them develop and shape their own leadership roles. And I guess like fostering the kind of environment where my team members felt like they could engage in this way. So something that's really important to me in my leadership work, I think, is creating new leaders, which I think is kind of like the theme of a lot of the work that you folks do too. And being able to do this on so many different levels is always what makes me feel optimistic about the work that I'm doing. I guess in terms of what has like helped me get to this point and contribute to this experience, I think a lot of this kind of like cycle of leadership where someone has believed in me and then I can believe in another person. It's been so important to me to have like these role models and people to look up to in my mental health and advocacy work. And so, yeah, I feel really grateful to have had people in my life that, for example, like selected me to be the co-leader, like the president of a Jack.org group, or encouraged me to plan events. Because I think leadership really just is this really wonderful circle of like engagement and encouragement with the people around you. And yeah, that's been kind of like the essential part of my leadership journey, I think, is having people believe in me and then I can believe in other people.
Fantastic, Tori. Thank you. What a great way to start to kick off our live panel. So we'll come back to you later in the panel for some more reflections, but moving to some of our established leaders on the panel, although I have to say in our Pacific session, we discovered that with good leadership comes a very serious commitment to continuous development and improvement. So they might prefer a different label. But I'd like to invite you to tell us a little bit about yourselves and then to reflect on how you and your organisation build and nurture and develop emerging leaders. So I'd like to start with Dr. Cheryl Bellamy, who's an Associate Professor of Yale School of Medicine's Department of Psychiatry, Program for Recovery and Community Health, and the Director of Peer Services and Research. So Dr. Bellamy, tell us a little bit about you and also what does supporting and developing emerging leaders mean to you in your work?
Thank you so much for having me. I'll try to be brief because I know I have to leave. So, you know, one thing that's really critical to me as a Black woman is a sort of a saying called "lift as we climb," which was coined by the National Colored Women's League in the early 1900s. And by doing so, it means that as the person is sort of climbing, that they make sure that they reach out and grab the person's hand next to them so that we're climbing together. And I think that's so critical to the work that we're doing. And it's one of the reasons why I felt so committed to us even engaging in what we have now, which is the Yale Lived Experience Transformational Leadership Academy. And so it's one way that we are working with lived experience leaders, you know, internationally to try to develop emerging leaders. What we've seen is that, like you're saying, many of us are feeling as if we are emerging because we haven't really been given the opportunities to use our lived expertise. And when we have, we've been sort of put down and pushed away. So having an academy where people can learn from each other and have that support to grow, I feel is critical, because even after the training and the development is done, then many of us are left you know, and I don't mean to be sort of dramatic about it, but left alone to sort of figure this out on our own, right? So I'm now joint director of Yale's program for program for recovery and community health with Larry Davidson. And I mean, he certainly was my mentor, you know, 20 years ago when I was working on my PhD, looking at sort of recovery and ways that people who run sort of self-help drop-in centers, how do they sustain themselves? And it was me doing my dissertation that kept me alive, because I was able to learn from people in the field who were able to sustain their own way of living and in their wellness, and in ways that I actually didn't believe in it. I didn't believe in recovery. I didn't believe in any of it, you know, many years ago. I didn't know that I would even be alive today. So being able to just even hear from other people that have been able to show some success has been really critical to my own recovery process. It is also critical to how I continue to live my life daily. So if it wasn't for the work that I do and the ways in which I connect to other emerging leaders or other people with lived expertise, then I don't know if I would be able to carry on in the ways that I do, because it sustains me and how I approach this work and how I approach, you know, the work of leadership. I do think that as we are thinking about leadership, you know, we need to think about opportunities, and in even small opportunities, giving people the chance to use their voice, to take on leadership roles, and not just sort of the designated peer role or the lived experience role, but taking on roles throughout the system and throughout, you know, the community. I think it's also really vital that we think about mentorship and think about ways that folks can just be able to have a pool of people that they can call up or reach out to in moments of sometimes just clarity, sometimes just wanting to know that you're on the right track. And sometimes just having someone to listen and to be there. I do a lot of that with people generally. And I don't know where it's going to lead to, but what I do know is just having someone there that you can point to, that you can refer to, that's been there and done that, has been really helpful to lots of people. So
thank you.
Overall, the more I think that we're able to focus on training, opportunity, and mentorship, those things are, I think, key to the success of emerging leaders. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let me direct the same question across to Marianne Notariani, who is the Deputy CEO and Vice President Knowledge Mobilisation at the Centre of Excellence on PTSD and a Certified Health Executive through the Canadian College of Health Leaders. Marianne, I saw you nodding to a lot of what Dr. Bellamy was reflecting there. So tell us a little bit in terms of your own journey and what you know about what helps to support and build and nurture emerging leaders.
Absolutely. So much resonated with all our speakers so far. And I will say, I recognize I'm on this panel as an established leader, though I see myself as a recent established leader. So I'm approaching this conversation with a lot of humility. And in fact, it wasn't so long ago that I myself was participating in discussions and initiatives aimed at emerging leaders. And for me, a lot of my learning and self-reflection, which is so key to the practice of leadership, whether we have these formal titles or not, has been about navigating transitions associated with progressing into increasingly more senior roles and more firmly situating myself as an established leader at the system level. And I've been very fortunate to have a lot of support and resources help me on my journey, which is why I also want to commit to that and pay that forward and ensure others can benefit if they see themselves as emerging leaders or wish to grow in that capacity. So in terms of, this question about building and nurturing leaders, like I can reflect organizationally and also individually. In my current leadership position, I'm in the context of a newer organization. We just started in 2019. So we have that benefit of really building that culture we want to foster healthy organization. And we've put intentional focus on growth across all levels of our team. Right now, we have emerging leaders in formal leadership positions, which are new to some of them, and recognizing that we've been providing, concrete leadership development opportunities through a program based on the LEADS framework, which is a popular leadership framework used in the Canadian health sector. And for all our team members, we're investing in professional development opportunities through, providing a bond that can be invested in supports tailored to someone's development goals, and also through providing group learning opportunities and supporting some of those informal opportunities. So certainly, hearing that word opportunity comes up for me and resonates strongly. I will also just comment too that as part of my leadership journey coming up as a leader through successive leadership roles through now 3 different mental health intermediary organizations in Canada. In all of these, our work has involved partnering and engaging with people with lived experience and supporting these partners as leaders. Because again, leadership isn't limited to professional roles and titles. So it's really great to see that focus through the IIMHL and IIDL, because people with lived experience are key partners to provide leadership in our collective spaces of work and in support of goals to transform our sector. So we shouldn't be doing this work in isolation or without that shared leadership. And I believe it's, really important for organizations to nurture this leadership. So just as with practicing meaningful engagement, we have to invest the resources and provide access to learning and development opportunities. So that means budgeting in the time and funds and thinking more expansively about who's included when we're offering group training. So I can give more specific examples later of how we've done that at my work. Just reflecting individually, having access to mentorship. So hearing that, and people who invested in me and my growth have been instrumental in my career. So I myself commit to that. And for folks that I'm engaged with as a mentor or as a supervisor, it's been critical to commit that time through consistent, regular one-to-ones to be that sounding board, provide that feedback, offer that coaching. And as situations come up, commit to debriefing and engaging in shared reflection. I think those are key practices that I've found very useful personally and plan to use that going forward.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Great reflections. So moving now to Ruby Moore, who's the CEO of the Georgia Advocacy Office and has spent much of her career and life helping people to be leaders in their own lives. Ruby, in your experience, what works? What helps people to develop, and how do we nurture those people?
Yeah, thanks. First, I just want to thank the other speakers for sharing your stories and your wisdom and your courage. It is a journey. You start with a vision, and the vision I had was leveling the playing field. So when I first came to GAO, what worked for us was beginning with the notion that the entire organization could be run by leaders at every level who have disabilities and mental health histories. And so we have quite a diverse organization of very talented people. And of course, I'm having a blast. I have a lot of gratitude for throughout my entire career. I've had teachers all around me because I see the teacher in everybody, but teachers and mentors and people who gave me critical feedback, including Dr. Michael Kendrick, who's a dear friend and has long been helping me see whatever the incoherencies are, my ideas. But we began off and said, well, why don't we start by creating kind of a nurturing ecosystem for recruiting, supporting, and developing leaders, and welcoming people who may come from a wide spectrum of where they are in terms of realizing their true gifts. And of course, it's the most fun to help people see their true gifts that often emerge from traumatic or adverse experiences. So, we started off and said, well, let's create a culture of respect that allows people to have a safe, motivating, trauma-informed environment. And we created a whole set of practices around that because I thought what would be good for welcoming emerging leaders would be good for everybody. And so we have a set of intentional practices around nonviolent communication and trauma-informed approaches and problem solving, using crucial conversations, team building, and it's all in the context of understanding social devaluation. We take a pretty deep dive on that so that the person sitting next to you, if they're in pain, as Elder Commando said, that person might need a prayer, that person might need healing, that person might need you to hear them in a different way because you haven't had the experience that they've had. So we have a wildly diverse group of people, and the age ranges are from 21 to 75. So one of the things that's worked has really been working with each other, cross-cultural and cross-generational, so that people can really learn respectful ways to listen and hear and understand and respect each other. And then we're always recruiting the next gen of leaders. So after people who started at 21, as they're approaching like 35, we're bringing in the next cohort of leaders so for this peer mentoring to happen. You know, on a very practical level, some people have made references to some of these pieces, which do turn out to be really important. We do want to help people launch their careers and in some cases find their calling. And so that means creating not only an accountable environment, but a flexible one. So we use a lot of customized employment around people may have applied for a position that they don't have the experience for. So sometimes I just kind of rearrange our molecules so that we can create a new position for them so that they can use their gifts and talents to help us carry forward our mission, but not in the way we imagined it with the original job description. I look for opportunities for people to successfully occupy leadership roles inside and outside of the organization. People ask me to do all kinds of things, and lots of times I'll say, oh, I bet, you know, Julie would love to do that. And so we support people to be successful, to become known in their own right. And even to the point of when people leave the organization, I help them find another job to stay on their career path or change career paths, or help people to see them in the best possible light that might not be intuitively obvious in their interview.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I know everyone on this panel can, we could have met at a 2-hour panel and it would have been so rich. So thank you so much. Tori, I want to come back to you, and just when you've been reflecting and pulling some of the things from our other speakers, when you think of a really positive future vision for yourself and your leadership and the work that you want to lead into the future, what do you think will enable this? And if we could kind of get the 2 sentence kind of from your view, what would really enable you to charge into that future as a leader?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to say is very aligned with what everyone has been saying. I think this positive future for myself at the end of the day is like grounded in community. I think especially coming from like a rural context, a lot of the time we see these leaders and like we get role models and then they graduate and go off to like a big city, which is obviously fair and there's more opportunities there. But yeah, I think maintaining connections with these leaders and finding a way to do that is the most important thing that I need to support my future work.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Tori. Marianne, if you could get every organization to just start doing one thing to better support emerging leaders and the growth of leadership, what would it be?
Ooh, just one. Okay. Definitely opportunity. But I think one point I wanted to draw attention to is, you know, as we're turning more attention to diversity, equity, inclusion, I think we need to consider that in terms of how we're supporting emerging leaders. So I was just struck by the comment, certainly in the first video around visibility, representation. We need to see that. So we need to invest in supporting emerging leaders through providing opportunities and really embed that equity, diversity, inclusion lens in mind as we think about that.
Thank you. And Ruby, you're going to get the last word, but just one thing, if you could get everyone to just start doing one thing to support emerging leaders, what would that be?
treasure them.
Oh, I love that. That's a really powerful way to end our panel session. A huge thank you to all of our panel members for your fantastic work and leadership and for sharing your reflections today. So the next part of our agenda is a bit of co-reflection, and we're going to hand the meeting over to you to discuss and mingle and meet with each other. What we're asking you to do is to work together to note the key lessons or the messages that you're drawing out from that panel session. And then we would like you as a group to try and agree on a top 3 messages. It's a hard task with so much wisdom in this session, and I'm only going to be able to give you 10 minutes to do it. So that we don't lose any great insights, I'm asking you to keep some notes in a Google document. If you need any help finding these, just let me know through the chat. So we'll have 10 minutes in a breakout, and then we'll come back. I am going to ask if you need to take a little bit of a break, maybe do that in the breakout time, because we're running a little bit behind, so that we don't miss out on the opportunity to interrogate some of the draft emerging leaders principles. So if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate, contact me through the chat, and otherwise I'm going to send you off for 10 minutes in our breakout rooms. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is our breakout room here. So I'm happy to be a bit of a scribe and take some notes if you each like to kind of reflect on what you've heard.
This is
Go ahead, Bernard. I think Bernard might be having a little bit of trouble with internet connection. Robin, I see you're off mute, so I might pick on you. What stood out to you from the session in terms of key messages?
I think meeting people where they are and being able to support them in a way that pulls like the leadership out of them, that stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was a really nice one. And it kind of went hand in hand with the one that I had picked up on around, as you yourself are in an emerging leader role, bringing other folks on board and, I guess paying it forward in a way that really struck a chord with me.
I totally have one more if no one else wants to go. Okay. Tori had said about maintaining connections, which I also think is really important because there are times when people who are mentoring you are a huge part of your life. So carrying that forward and just seeing how they can, keep in touch and making those connections. It's really networking is the word I'm looking for, is important.
I can jump in. I really liked how Tori used that expression about leadership being like a circle of engagement, or there was a nice way that she framed that I think summarized things nicely. It's very relational, right? And finding those ways to connect with folks and continue that relationship building over time, I think is important.
Elaine, any thoughts from you?
I mean, like Ruby Moore said, I guess it's important that we support these people as leaders for, it's been a long day already, so you have to forgive the scribbled thoughts here. But as we, change careers and change interests, it's important to provide support.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really I particularly appreciated, Marianne, was the leadership not being limited to professional roles and titles. Actually, we're all leaders in our own lives and our own spaces, and sometimes that's not valued in the same way. And so, as people up the front or the people with the title. So that was a really key message for me. And also, something that Ruby said stood out to me, that because I haven't heard this kind of in terms of leadership spaces before, but really thinking about how you nurture an ecosystem around people, and particularly those principles around nonviolent communication and understanding the context in which people are operating. I don't know, did that stand out to anyone else?
I think for me, it did resonate, because in the way that it was being described, I was thinking again about psychological safety, and so much of leadership and this practice of leadership has to do with learning and vulnerability and all of that. So it really struck a chord around the importance of, in order to do that continual learning, commit to that, we really need to be in those environments that are fostering that kind of psychological safety. So when it was mentioned about trauma informed and those principles, that rang true for me. It was a different framing, but it makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, gang, I'm just gonna step out for a second.
I suppose, Miriam or Elaine, is there anything from your own journeys that you would want to add to the reflections around what it's like being an emerging leader, or what's made a positive difference for you in your leadership journeys?
Sure, I'll go with Miriam. Okay, so I guess what's made a difference is people actually listening to me and treating me like I have something to bring to the table. That's really been the most important thing, is again going back to that, supporting as ideas change, as interests change, and still allowing me to have a seat while I think through these things and process these things through my experience as somebody who would be an emerging leader or is an emerging leader in the disability space, and just trying to use that as like, okay, who else can I support along the way too?
Yeah, I really appreciate those reflections, Elaine, because I think that the opportunities that have been offered to me where I felt heard and seen and my ideas were honored really helped me in my own journey as well. I think another really important part for me kind of goes back to what you were saying, Marianne, around representation. I guess growing up in like moving to Canada, growing up in Canada, I didn't always see myself represented in leadership positions as a visibly Muslim woman. So I think it would have been nice to see more of that. And I think I feel a lot of pressure being an emerging leader who holds that kind of visible identity to maybe do it justice, knowing how much other folks who are younger, who are looking for that kind of representation, maybe looking up to me, and I've had lots of conversation with folks from my community about that. And it brings me back to where I was when I was younger, not really knowing what was possible because it wasn't as it wasn't as visible. It just, there wasn't as much representation, and I know that that's changing. So I appreciate when organizations are able to put an EDI lens as to how they approach preparing staff and enabling staff to take on those kinds of leadership roles. I think it goes a long way.
Thank you both. It's so great to hear your reflections and experiences, and it really enriches the conversation that we're having. We've got about a minute and a half left. I'm just going to send a note to everyone else. But if we were to try and distill some of what we're talking about into top three, is anything kind of naturally emerging? Do you think that we've got natural alignment around what we've talked about?
I think one that I had mentioned earlier, and I heard you mention it as well, Elaine, is in your own journey, keeping an eye out for who you can support and who you can bring along with you on your journey. That seemed to be one that you reiterated.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a clear point of kind of alignment. I think treating people seriously as well, that really kind of resonated, Miriam and Elaine, from your comments. We've got room for one more. Oh, my friend's coming back. So welcome back, everybody. I think we've got everyone back from your breakout rooms. So how was that? Hopefully okay. It's always a bit of a scramble with the short timeline and the group kind of coming together and sharing their reflections. I'm sorry we're having to cut the time a little bit short, but we had such great reflections coming from our panel that it was sort of hard to know when to intervene. So I wanted to take you very quickly through the work that the International Initiative for Mental Health Leadership, so IIMHL, and the International Initiative for Disability Leadership, IIDL, have been doing over the last 6 months or so. So we're trying to develop some key principles around what does it actually mean to support emerging leaders well, and trying to understand what are the different responsibilities that each of us have, whether we're an emerging leader or an established leader or an organisation. So I wanted to reflect those back to you. We've developed these draft ones in the Pacific, and they're now on a world tour. So this is their first stop in North America. And then after this, they're going to go to the European Union and UK countries. So we really want to understand, what are these, sounds like it really works, what's missing? And actually, what do you think? Oh, I think we've learned something about that, and maybe we should take that out as in terms of a leadership principle. So these are also in the Google Drive. But just to summarize, we've got some foundational actions that everybody needs to do just in terms of their leadership practice. So the things that have come out for that are being really intentional about seeking out different views to our own, and creating spaces for constructive debate and constructive disagreement, knowing yourself, the good and the bad, trying to deliberately develop people and acknowledging that everybody can do that with no matter what stage of your leadership journey that you're on, and allowing leadership initiatives to be self-determined. When we think about the actions emerging leaders need to take to support their own development, the way that we phrased it coming out of the Pacific is the idea of investing in developing self-confidence and self-awareness, seeking out mentors, really going and putting yourself out there, considering new opportunities really carefully and with integrity and making sure you can follow through on your commitments, and being brave when taking on roles and opportunities, being authentic and sharing your story. And you can definitely hear from the recording of Monique kind of where some of those themes came from. When we thought about established leaders, we thought about a lot of the same kind of ideas. So creating space for emerging leaders to feel safe and supported, seeking out opportunities to be mentors, and seeking out opportunities to sponsor new and diverse leaders. When we think about organisations, we thought that there are some really structural things that organisations can be doing. So creating time and space for reflection, involving natural supports, family and whānau, and that's a Maori word that sort of translates as family, but the concept is much broader than that. It talks to the whole community of people around someone, and using those natural supports to build the capacity of new and diverse leaders, and using really genuine co-design processes and using the rules in your co-design process to disrupt the traditional power dynamics. And we know that IIMHL and IIDL is an organisation as well. So then we've got some key commitments there for IIMHL and IIDL. So this idea of valuing leadership in a wide range of spaces, promoting the commitment that leadership's an ongoing journey, and creating opportunities for mutual learning, just like today, between established leaders and emerging leaders. So I'm going to invite you back into your breakout rooms, just to have a bit of a chat about, is there anything there that you were listening out for that you heard in the earlier session that you went, oh, this isn't quite covered? Or is there anything that kind of hit a bit of a friction point and you went, oh, I'm not sure that this is a great principle? And just anything as well that you kind of went, oh yeah, that's really key and we need to make sure that doesn't disappear. So that's also in the same document for your in the Google Drive, Google document. So any notes and thoughts and reflections, welcome those in the Google document, and I'll ask each group to also nominate a speaker. So when we all come back together, if you can just highlight one key message from your group to share. So let me send you all to your breakout rooms. And I can see some people are having trouble with the Google document. So if people can if you can nominate a note taker who can email me afterwards, that would be brilliant. And if you can just then have someone who can reflect back at the end of the 5 minutes in the group session, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so back to just us. So I guess first question, was there anything in that quick summary of the leadership principles that you thought was really good and needed to not get lost?
I have a PDF Of the draft principles, that's the one where, yeah, good.
Or is there anything that you were kind of listening for and you went, oh, that's missing?
I really appreciate in the Principles for Emerging Leaders section, investing in developing self-confidence and self-awareness. And I almost, yeah, was wondering if that's part of the lifelong process of leadership as well, and if that one would also make sense to maintain under Principles for Established Leaders as well. I know that the way that they're conceived right now is one is more so about how do you grow on the emerging side, and the other one is how do you support others. So I'm not sure if there's space for that, but yeah, it just struck me as something that was reflected in the conversation around having to continuously grow even when you're an established leader.
Thanks, Miriam. That's a great reflection.
So I would echo that, and something too that, I mean, I would see in the established leader column, if it makes sense, is having this recognition that we can learn from emerging leaders too. So it's not that we're the experts in leadership. Like I think it, you know, approaching a mentorship relationship is there's mutual benefit and opportunities for mutual learning from both parties. So, you know, whether others think that needs to be reflected as a principle, but it's something that I think is important to reflect in the context of mentorship, that learning can go both ways or always.
Yeah, Marianne, I've heard that referred to as a co-mentorship sometimes, and to really highlight the reciprocity. Anything else jumping out or missing? Elaine, anything jumping out at you that you really like about the principles that you think?
Yeah, sure. Let me find the tab again. Too many windows. I really liked Actions for All. The ensuring initiatives to develop leadership are self-determined, allow people to emerge at their own pace, and give people the opportunity to engage in ways that make sense for them, because I've had opportunities where it didn't make sense for me to engage in that at the time. Didn't make sense career-wise, it didn't make sense life-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And just thinking about our report back, is anyone feeling brave enough to jump in? We've got, so we appreciate the investing in self-confidence, self-knowledge, and bringing that across to established leaders, that established leaders can learn from emerging leadership, and really reinforcing the importance of that self-paced, self-determined. Is anyone happy to report that back?
I definitely do not want to speak to the group, but I was wondering if we could add principles for emerging leaders, just something about like diversity and representation. I know you have it on the organizational policies, but I think just to really ensure that's getting across.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Bernard, are you going okay there? We're slowly all coming back, so welcome back. And just see if anyone's still in a breakout rooms. Looks like everyone's coming back now. Fantastic. So a bit of a speed round there. I'd like to invite the breakout group 1. What was it that you wanted to reflect and share back from your group discussions around the principles and around what you've heard today?
Yeah, we were going back to what Elder Commando had spoken to. We saw that the practice of kindness as sort of an overarching frame pulled everything else we wanted to focus on up under that, whether it's investing in developing self-confidence and self-awareness. And we added self-care, not in the promoting commercialism kind of self-care, but in the actually being kind to yourself as well as the people around you, and creating a safe space. Safe could also be challenging, but safe. And so that was sort of our primary takeaway. And we also said that that notion of kindness is more complex. It's sort of deceptively simple. It sounds simple, but there's nothing simple about it. So that might be worth a deeper dive as we kind of embrace that more fully or clearly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ruby, and your group. In terms of group 2, who would like to report back? Tia, fantastic.
So we sort of talked about how about leaders, and not just it's important, not just that it is important to mentor youth, young leader, emerging leaders, but to look at it as a movement and not a program, but to talk about how, like, not only just say, okay, now we're going to just move on to emerging leaders and forget about the leaders who already established things, but to really work together as a movement and really think about, because words sometimes, why people sort of like say they don't want to like try to interact with emerging leaders is because sometimes people say, okay, you are now an established leader and we're done with you after other leaders come up in the movement. And I think that that's some ways people are afraid of that happening. And we need to all work together to get things done, because we say all means all. And so that means including everybody, whether you're a leader coming up or you're an established leader, or, but everybody can have a leadership role no matter what position you are playing. And to remember that we can learn from each other. We can learn from the younger people that are coming up as leaders. We can learn from the people who have been in the movement. And that way, by listening and working together, and not separating and saying, like making people feel like they're not a leader anymore after that happens, but just helping them establish new leadership roles and always continue learning, because we all continue to learn no matter how old we are. So I think we took it as like everybody is important and everybody should be included, and we should work on working together and on things that are important, because God only knows that there's enough work for everybody out there to make it a better place. So that's how we looked at it, as inclusions of everybody and working so that those younger people will know the past history and will know, you know, that they don't have to do that. They can be stronger, and they can help us, you know, continue to learn from them on the new ways that they're teaching their leadership roles and continue doing that.
Thank you, Tia. And from the main room, is anyone happy to do the report back from the main room? Had a quiet group. So I was in the main room as well. So we really resonated with a lot of the key topics that people have highlighted. So particularly that idea of investing in developing self-confidence and self-knowledge. But we thought about whether that could be brought across to established leaders as well, that real recognition of leadership is this ongoing, never-ending journey. So thank you all so much. I know we've hit our time together, but before we go, I wanted to invite Dr. Michael Kendrick, who's a very deep thinker in leadership across both the mental health and disability worlds, and in particular supporting the growth and development of leadership. Michael, have you got any key reflections from what you've heard on the session and anything you'd like to highlight for us? You're muted.
You're on mute, Michael.
I think the collective nature of leadership is important to reflect on. People tend to think of just individual leadership, but when leaders join up to get things done, we have the benefit of each of the leaders. And so we have a richer set of possibilities. So I think it's very important to keep looking at leadership as a sort of team effort, and that everybody counts, and we're better because everybody is there. So if we work like that, we'll have fewer divisions and we'll have more unity of purpose. And I think we won't have energy diverted into conflicts. So just some thoughts.
Fantastic thought to end on. Thank you very much, Michael. So we'll close out the session. In terms of next steps, as you exit the meeting, there'll be a feedback survey, and we really appreciate if you take 5 minutes to do that for us. It really helps us keep the things that are working well and change what doesn't work for people. This session has been recorded and that'll be made available, and we'll also write up a report. And next stop on the world tour, as I said, is Europe. And so we'll have a similar conversation with emerging and established leaders over there to get their contributions. And this work will inform IIMHL and IIDL going forward, including and most especially for our upcoming match in October, which will be a virtual match, and you're all invited to join. So please check the IIMHL website for more information. We'd love to have you with us there. So thank you all so very much. Thank you, Jason, our captioner, for an outstanding job, and really appreciate all of you taking the time to join us today. Thank you, and go safely.